Hey everyone, and welcome to another GameXplain discussion. I'm your host, Derek Bittner, and I'm joined today by Ash Polson to discuss the newly revealed new 2DS XL. So let's get started. Ash, what are your first impressions of this honest surprise announcement of this system?
I mean, I have so many, just so many random thoughts, but I guess really more than anything, just what the hell? This came out of nowhere, and it's a strange time to reveal something like this, in my opinion. But, I mean, maybe this is something they decided was big, but not big enough for E3, so they're going ahead and trotting this out right now.
Yeah, I don't think this would go over as well during E3, be like, who cares? This is sort of the perfect time to do it, because there's not really a whole lot going on. There hasn't really been much going on the 3DS front, except there is stuff coming along with Ever Oasis, Fire Emblem Echoes, and as they showed during the trailer, Hey Pikmin and Miitopia. So I do think the timing of this makes a lot of sense as far as where it's going to get a lot of attention, and judging by the YouTube views, it's definitely getting a lot of attention. It's a very interesting system, and on the whole, when I first saw this thing, I was like, well, at least it looks a hell of a lot better than the regular 2DS, because that thing was just wrong on so many levels.
Yeah, you know, what's weird about the 2DS, because I agree with you, I think it's an incredibly ugly piece of hardware, but when I actually played one, I was like, oh, I kind of get the point of having a slate-style Nintendo handheld. It's kind of cool. But I completely agree, it's so ugly to look at, and ultimately, as fun as that slate design was for one model, I think I do overall prefer the clamshell design.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the clamshell just works a lot better, and I don't know, there's something just very satisfying about closing it, putting it into sleep mode, tucking it in your pocket, going. It just makes a lot more sense to me when it comes to handhelds anymore. It's sort of been like that ever since the Game Boy Advance SP. So
exactly.
Why go away from that? I mean, Nintendo sort of played around with it with the Game Boy Micro, but I mean, it's so tiny, it was also just so easy to pop it in. It's not like the first 2DS at all. So we have the new 2DS XL, and I mean, if you weren't convinced that Nintendo has given up on the idea of 3D, then there you go. Here's its death knell, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really the main takeaway for me in all this, which I think is kind of a shame. Although, I mean, I guess it's not that much of a shame, because the 3DS, whether it's dying or not, it's clearly in its twilight days. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I wasn't really expecting any crazy new game coming out to take amazing advantage of stereoscopic 3D anyway. I think the days of cool stereoscopic 3D games from the 3DS have mostly passed, only because the days of the 3DS have generally kind of passed. So they have and they haven't. I mean, obviously they are committed to keeping the 3DS family of systems alive for at least the immediate future. But I'm not, I just feel like with the Switch out, the focus isn't really isn't on 3DS anymore anyway. So while I will miss stereoscopic 3D, it was already being phased out anyway.
Yeah, that's sort of the funny thing, is that 3D in general has been sort of fading away. Like, it had that big boom pretty much when the 3DS was launched, and it kept around for a while, but I haven't gone to see a 3D movie in a long time, and you don't really hear about them pushing for 3D movies much anymore. So it's just sort of, 3D is, once again, its fad has ended, and it's sort of gone away. But it is interesting that you mentioned the fact that this might breathe some life into the 3DS lineup, or at least show Nintendo's not abandoning it right away. And we even have a quote from Reggie from Nintendo's press release on this, where he says, "This new addition to Nintendo's portable hardware line demonstrates our commitment to the handheld market. And the new 2DS XL sports a beautiful clamshell design and offers a great balance between price and performance." So the key takeaway for that, for me, is the fact that he said they are dedicated to, or they're committed to, the handheld market. Now, they might just be saying that for the fact of trying to sell these units, but this does seem to indicate, however slightly, that they're not ready to give up on the 3DS lineup yet, and might even support it for maybe throughout 2018 as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the idea I'm getting, or at least through some of 2018. And you know, now that I think about the 3D thing more, I actually don't know if I'm comfortable equating like stereoscopic 3D here with 3D movies, because I actually just said about Fire Emblem Echoes that the 3D in there is actually quite good. So it doesn't seem as if, actually now that I think about it, it doesn't seem as if Nintendo's quite ready to drop 3D yet, because they do have these new first-party titles coming out that include it. So given that, the announcement of the 2DS XL is actually even more curious, because it's not as if they've phased 3D out entirely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, no, there's still plenty of games that support the 3D, and I don't think it's that much to add it in, but it also makes sense that it's not a selling point for the 3DS anymore. People don't get a 3DS because, oh my gosh, it has stereoscopic 3D. So in that sense, it makes a lot of sense to sell this new 2DX XL, make it a little bit closer to the new 3DS XL, make it a little bit cheaper. It's $150 compared to the $180 for the 3DS XL, so it's a little bit cheaper.
Yeah, I mean, in that sense, I would say it's actually a very smart move because there are so many people, it seems, at least, that are interested in the 3DS and want to get in to this library of games, but don't really care about stereoscopic 3D, and I totally get that. So in that sense, now you get to have this premium Nintendo handheld from the 3DS family that has everything you want except stereoscopic 3D, which I'm glad, I guess, in that sense that they're kind of bridging the gap, because until now, the 2DS always felt like this kind of low-grade, kind of like a thing that you'd pass on to your little brother or something, like a hand-me-down. It didn't feel like a true Nintendo handheld, I guess, in that sense. Whereas now we've got this proper clamshell design that feels like you're playing a legit 3DS. It just has everything but the 3D, and I like that.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, and you pretty much nailed it on the head there. It all just kind of works out for it, and I think it does sort of reach that new mid-range title. If you want to go super cheap, you have the classic 2DS, but if you want to, still have a decent system and nice big screens and the extra power that the new 3DS XL provides, well, you have the new 2DS now. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense, and it's good to see how much stereoscopic 3D costs to put it into systems. $30.
Exactly. And I mean, I totally get that's not necessarily a selling point, and I think that aspect of the 3DS has mostly run its course. So I totally get why Nintendo thought now might be the right time to introduce a new 3D less model of their clamshell design.
Yeah, and actually it's kind of funny because there is almost a soft launch lineup for the system because they did advertise during that trailer that Hey Pikmin is and Miitopia are launching on the same day. As far as launch lineups go, that's not too bad. Miitopia for the more casual people, Hey Pikmin for Pikmin fans.
I was like, I don't know what comparison you're making here. It doesn't Hey Pikmin doesn't scream hardcore to me.
No, I was definitely not going to go hardcore. Okay. Who knows on that one? At least it might give it at least a little bit of a bump as far as advertising. Just saying, hey, you got this new 2DS system. Why don't you pick up Pikmin along with it? That was a GameCube launch title, remember?
Right. No, I mean it's very interesting. I mean the messaging here seems to be clear that, we were among the people who doubted Reggie and such when they said, the 3DS is going to continue to be a really strong pillar alongside the Switch. It was just like, that's not going to happen. Look what happened to the Wii U. There's no way. Well, you know what? Maybe they called our bluff. It actually does seem like they are committed, at least for the near future, or for the foreseeable future, to the 3DS family.
Yeah, maybe. I'm not totally convinced yet, because, they put up a kind of a support in the form of the Game Boy Micro after the original DS was released. We actually looked at the dates for that. I thought the Micro came out before the DS. Turns out it came out almost a little under a year after the DS, and it was sort of like, hey, there's this thing. Yeah, we don't care. We can get the DS that actually plays the Game Boy Advance games, so yeah, we're just going to get that instead. I don't know whether it's going to be more along those lines, like, hey, we're still supporting our portable systems and putting up that little bit of good faith, or this is our sort of mid-range, get people in as we develop the next actual portable console. Kind of hard to say at the moment, but my gut feeling tells me that this does not push them further towards both handheld and Switch consoles.
Really? I mean, I at least don't think it pushes them further away from it, though.
No, it doesn't push them further away, but it doesn't... to me, this is just holding steady, almost. Because it's putting up that nominal effort to say, hey, we're still supporting them, especially since they, like I said, they do have games coming out this year for it. So this is a good way to support them and get new people to buy them, which, isn't a bad idea, especially since, the Switch, is doing well now, but you never know how long it's going to hold up. So it's a good way to keep up the 2DS and 3DS family until the Switch becomes a little bit more solid. And, I mean... maybe I'm being negative, I don't know, but I don't know. I just don't see that being like, okay, they're going all in on the 3DS right away. I can't see that.
Right. Well, I mean, money talks, right? So, I mean, this could be an experiment. I mean, I absolutely believe that if the money's there and 3DS software continues to sell, we're going to keep seeing 3DS software continue to be announced and made throughout 2018. But if this 2DS XL initiative kind of just limps out of the gate, doesn't move that many systems, and what Hey Pikmin and Miitopia kind of don't do well either, that could maybe signal the end of the 3DS line. Like, I feel like you might have hit on something with them being kind of in a holding pattern, like trotting this out to see how it does, because the more I think about it, I do wonder exactly who the market is for the 2DS XL, because they've sold so many of these things now that quite a few people out there already own either a 3DS, a 3DS XL, a new 3DS, a new 3DS XL, or a 2DS. So now it's like, how many more people do they have to sell this specific iteration of a 2DS to, when there are already so many other options out there, I guess. But as you hit on earlier, as we were discussing, there is a certain attractiveness to the clamshell design with the better processor from the new 3DS, along with the lack of stereoscopic 3D, which, drops the price a little bit. So this is, it seems like kind of like a silly Nintendo whatever business decision at first, but the more you think about it, and the more you break it down and kind of investigate, the more interesting it becomes.
Yeah, it really does seem to be the case. And that even happened as we were just looking at the system itself, because I was looking at basically the design and was like, oh, this, kind of looks a lot like the actual new 3DS XL. There didn't really change much. But then I started looking at the details, so I was like, wait a second, there's a few things rearranged here that makes it a little strange. But before we get into that and those differences, what do you think of the design overall? Like the color, the clamshell look, and all that?
I actually like it quite a bit. I don't like the white and orange one. I don't think I'd ever buy that for myself, but I like that it's an option for people who like it. But that blue and black one, man, that is quite the sleek design. I actually generally am a fan of this design, other than the lack of 3D, but that's the point. So, yeah, I actually like it. I think it's pretty sleek.
Yeah, I think the orange and yellow design, or the orange and white design, is exclusive to Japan, as far as I can
is
tell.
it?
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. Okay, my bad.
Yeah, that's fine. It's just, so, hey, you're in luck. They gave us the better looking one, according to you. So
yeah, that's true.
That
and I mean, you guys, I love blue. Blue's like my favorite color, and yeah, I think the black on blue is actually really cool looking, and I like the surface, like the matte looking surface of the lid, I guess you'd call it, the top lid.
Yeah, that looks just very nice. And actually, when I first saw it, I was looking at the top screen. It really reminded me, just as far as shape and everything else, kind of like an iPhone screen.
Yeah, well, I think it's the exact same size of the 3DS XL screen, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it's not any bigger. The screens aren't any bigger. It's not any more powerful, anything like that. It's the same size, but I'm just saying the design of the top, when it's opened, looks a lot like an iPhone.
It kind of does, doesn't it?
Side. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
funny.
Very much struck by that, and I like I said, I like the look of this thing. It's very just nice looking, and the buttons being blue and the D-pad being blue, I don't know, gives it a little bit of flavor. It's like, I wouldn't be embarrassed to, lug this thing around or pull it out. It's just nice it just looks good.
But something else I noticed while we were talking about this was, I don't think it's a coincidence at all that the new 2DS XL is exactly half the price of a new Switch. Like, I think that is a very calculated move, because then the messaging is clear. The premium Nintendo experience right now is on the Switch for $300, or you can just spend half the money and get a new 2DS XL. It's a very interesting entry point for the price.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that, how it is exactly half the price.
It's exactly half, yeah.
And, the thing is, it does have a huge library, and a good library, honestly. The 3DS has had...
Oh, yeah.
Some really great games to enjoy throughout the course of its lifespan. So it's really, if you're going into it, this feels like a really good entry point. But there are some concerns, and actually has a lot to do with its redesigns. One of the first, and it's something we didn't actually, because we were discussing the differences before we started the discussion or started recording, and I didn't notice this before, or didn't think to mention it before, but there's less connecting the two screens now. There's some
interesting. Yeah.
There's some empty space to the sides of the right and left, which reminds me of I believe of the classic DS, if I'm remembering correctly. I might be wrong there. So I'm wondering if the hinges are going to be a little bit more iffy, kind of like how the DS was, because I had that trouble with the DS Lite with where my hinge broke.
Yeah, no, I think I haven't had any of my hinges break, but I definitely have a little crack in my hinge on my 3DS XL. And I think I had one in my original 3DS as well, so that's concerning, because it's well known at this point that the hinges on any 3DS family system are pretty crappy. So the fact that there seems to be less than ever holding the two parts together, I do hope that they're, going back to the drawing board with these hinges and making them a little stronger.
Yeah, I hope that's the case. It's been a few years now. They
Yeah.
should have this right by now, one would hope. But
One would hope.
But I mean, it looks nice. That's the thing. But it's just
It does.
not sure how sturdy it's going to be in the end. The other thing that's immediately noticeable is the fact that there's no speakers on the top screen, or on the top section, I should say. The holes that were there for the speakers on the 3DS XL are gone, and we were looking. I was going through the trailers, like, where the heck are they? I'm trying to find them. I was like, at the first, I was like, oh God, is this going to be headset only? Which would have seemed like a massive mistake, but no. The volume control is very clearly on the left side, so you can raise and lower it. It does have external speakers, and it seems to be there's a weird hole on the hinge, which we think is the speaker. It's just a single hole.
That's why when you said external speakers, I was like, well, I think you mean an external speaker, because it does appear, at least from what we can see. I mean, and this is something you brought up. I hadn't even noticed the fact that that's just one of those things you assume is just there in your mind's eye. Of course speakers are there, but you were right. There are no speaker holes on either side of the screen, and all we can imagine is that the speaker is now this little hole in the middle of the hinge next to the mic, and that's interesting. That seems like a step back to me, only because one of the defining features for me of the 3DS XL above the 3DS, or sorry, the new 3DS XL above the regular 3DS XL, was that the volume was a little better, and that you could actually play games at max volume and hear them better than you would on a regular 3DS model. Now, I feel like they, depending on how if that is the speaker and that's what it sounds, we'll have to see what it sounds like, but I cannot see such a small little thing producing any semblance of decent sound. That would shock me if it did.
Yeah, that is a really iffy moment. The sound on this thing might not be this great. Who knows? They might surprise us. I don't know. I don't know speaker technology that well. I don't know if a single speaker that small in the center could output in a stereo in the way that we're used to. It's hard to say. Yeah. But it definitely raises some concerns about the audio quality this time around. And you actually mentioned something else that's been changed, is that the mic is next to this, what we think is the speaker. And the mic has actually been moved from the bottom, along the bottom of the new 3DS XL to that area, which is, I think, a good design change, if only because it feels much more naturally to talk into the middle of your screen rather than tilting it up and talking into the bottom of your 3DS.
No, that's true. I mean, I guess in context, the mic is it's such an afterthought anyway in terms of the amount of games that actually use it. But yes, for the people out there who are, really, really going heavy on the games that use the mic heavily, that's it seems like it would be a definite improvement.
Yeah, it's something minor, but it's good to see it's there.
In general, this does seem to be a pretty thoughtful, kind of scaling down of the premium new 3DS XL model. It just kind of remains to be seen how that speaker's going to sound, although you could make the argument that anyone who cares enough about music on the 3DS to care about the speaker is going to be using headphones anyway.
That is true, and that would solve the problem. But I don't know, there's something. You still want decent speakers.
No, you do.
That kind of thing. It's hard to quantify, but it's just sort of how I feel.
No, I agree with you totally.
But yeah, that would be an issue, though, I think, because that's still an extra investment. I mean, of course, everybody has headphones at this point, so it's not like it's a huge investment or anything like that.
Right. Now, do you think there's any chance that that middle thing is something else, and that the actual speakers are just invisible on either side of the screen?
I'm racking my brain about what that could be otherwise, and I have no clue. The only thing I can think of is the speaker. But that also, if the speaker's stuffed into the hinge there, again, how sturdy is the hinge?
Right.
That middle section is really my biggest concern of the whole 2DS XL.
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally agree with you. It does not seem like, I don't know, given Nintendo's history with hinges in this family of systems, I don't trust it at all. I don't trust it. But maybe they'll prove us wrong here.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, I mean, I think that pretty much covers all my thoughts about the new 2DS XL. There's not a whole lot to say, but I think it's a good idea. I like its design, but I think there are some specific design aspects that I'm a little bit leery of. Otherwise, I think this looks like it'd be a great entry point if you're interested in picking up the 3DS and you haven't yet.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree, especially if you don't care about stereoscopic 3D, and a lot of people don't. I feel like if that's the case, then this would be the obvious best entry point into the 3DS/2DS family of systems. I would much rather get this than a regular 2DS any day of the week.
Oh God, yeah. There's no question.
And I mean, and I would rather get this at this point. I'd probably rather get it over an old 3DS model too. Like I would probably want to get a new 2DS over an old 3DS. But of course, I think my first priority would still remain with the new 3DS.
Yeah, the funny thing is they got all these nice improvements and they've done so much for the 3DS so they can actually play them better. And I have the 3DS XL and the new 3DS XL. But because I have to record the games most of the time for GameXplain, I'm stuck playing on the classic 3DS, the original design.
Right.
And it's tiny and not comfortable, and it's just it's the only thing I have to use it in order to record, so it kind of sucks. So everything seems better by that comparison.
Now, I'm still looking at I keep kind of skipping through the trailer just to get a look at the hardware, and it almost seems from some angles that middle thing in the hinge has a reflective surface. So is there any chance at all that could be a front-facing camera, and that for some reason they just removed the back-facing? I mean, that wouldn't make any sense, but how could that be a speaker? I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, it might be that, but with it being close to the mic, I don't.
Yeah. It just doesn't make sense. And
it doesn't look like a camera based on what I'm looking at on the.
No, it doesn't to me
XL,
either.
So
I'm just trying to rack my brain thinking of anything that could possibly be. So there aren't people like, well, obviously, guys, it was that thing, and I'm like, but I don't know what that could be other than a speaker.
Hey, feel free to correct this, but I'm
yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's a speaker. Like, I might be wrong, but if I am wrong, where are the speakers at?
Where are the speakers at?
Well, any other thoughts on the new 2DS XL?
Really, only that I'm very excited to see how the how the 3DS family now with this new addition of the 2DS XL, how it coexists with the Switch. It's going to be a very interesting thing. It'll be very interesting to see it play out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I said, I think it's more of a holding pattern than anything else, but it is good to see them at least put out a little support for the 3DS and try to give it at least a little bit more legs. But it does feel like Nintendo is sort of testing the waters about how much interest there is in portables in beyond the Switch. So.
Yeah, I mean, look, I can't blame them because at the end of the day, the 3DS does have an incredible library of hundreds of games. So, I mean, why not bring as many people into that as you can? Because it sells itself. You don't have to promise, hey guys, don't worry, there are going to be all these awesome games coming on the horizon. They're already here. Mm-hmm. And it's almost unthinkable how many amazing games there are now to play on the 3DS to a completely new owner. Like, that blows my mind thinking about that. Like, having access to the entire 3DS library that I'd never played before. I mean, that's a pretty compelling argument right there.
Yeah, seriously. But,
yeah.
We'll see, but I think that covers it for our new 2DS XL impressions discussion. So thank you for watching, and if you like this video, be sure to like us on Facebook and Twitter at GameXplain. And of course, be sure to subscribe to GameXplain for more on the 2DS, 3DS, and other things gaming too. Until next time, bye.